Hello and welcome to Eva's House of Spirit. I'm Eva. Today I'm here to sort of complete my thoughts that I wanted to share with you on basic spiritual philosophy. I started meditating, or not meditating on, but I had meditated on some basic spiritual concepts, and then I made a video that if you go to my channel you can find it. It's some thoughts on basic spiritual philosophy. And I was sharing with you all my conclusions or my theories or feelings that I had come to based upon the meditation that I had done on the basic philosophical concepts that I had explored a little bit. And yet there were certain things that I felt that I needed to explore more, and that's what I'm here today to share with you. As I said in my other video, this is purely philosophy. Philosophy is not like, this is the hardline truth, you know. Philosophy is just seeking truth and questioning things. It's theorizing. It's like kind of like saying like, what if? So don't take anything I say as necessarily the hardline truth, but you know, maybe think about it a little bit. And I do recommend that you watch my other video on basic spiritual philosophy as well. In fact, I recommend you watch that one first if you haven't seen it already, and then maybe revisit this one to see how I completed the open-ended parts that I had left unexplored in that first video. Now, the first thing I want to speak about is that I noticed how, in terms of polarities, in the West, we associate the yin female polarity with earth, and we associate the yang male polarity with sky. But in the Chinese system, they associate them opposite. They associate yang with earth and yin with sky. And I was kind of, I don't know if confused is the right word, but I was a little stumped. I was like, how could they be completely opposite? There has to be a connection because everything is connected. And maybe some people may disagree with me, but I feel that cultures that are separated, that have spiritual beliefs, these beliefs, they are not just plucked out of nowhere. There is an inherent truth that these beliefs come out of, and although cultures don't speak to one another, you will notice that for the most part, as far as I can tell, all of these beliefs from all these different paths and cultures kind of, they interweave. And the reason why is that the truths are, from as far as I know, as far as I believe, the truths are true, where one culture may see something a certain way, another culture may see something another way, but they meet in the middle. There are things that tie them together because they are truths that were arrived at, you know, through how do I even want to put this? They're truths that are arrived at through like time-tested methods and just through like genuine seeking, and the answers that they found that have been believed for a long time, they are all coming to humanity from the same source, if that makes any sense. I hope I explained that clearly enough. So back to what I was saying, I was trying to figure out how can this difference of association of female and male polarity, or, you know, light and dark, or yin and yang, how can these be opposites seen in the Western view and seen in the Chinese view? Because I believe that all things are connected. And then I realized that maybe these two different cultures, the Western, culture and the Chinese culture, maybe we're just seeing different aspects and different associations of each of the polarities. Remember in my first video, I showed you the picture of the yin-yang that I had drawn on my chalkboard, and there were the two dots that appear in each half. There's the two dots of opposite color. Like in the light half, there's the dot of dark, and in the dark half, there's the dot of light. And I mentioned how those are sort of the exceptions of the rule. For example, when you have a sun goddess or a moon god, well, I thought to myself, maybe those dots also represent the fact that, being that everything is connected and everything is a whole, maybe there is yang in Earth. And it does make sense. I mean, if you think about it, even in the West, we do have, Earth gods, such as Pan, Cernunnos, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize if I'm not. But, there are associations there. So I realized maybe that's not such a weird thing that they associate yang with earth and yin with sky. It's just a different way of looking at it, because everything is connected, and there is masculinity as well connected with the earth, and femininity as well connected with the sky. Maybe in the West we just tend to associate more strongly that the female is earth-related and that the sky is more male-related, whereas in the Chinese culture they somehow associate stronger the male connections with earth and the female connections with sky. So that does make sense. So I have reconciled that for myself. And then the second thing that I was a little stumped on or felt I needed to explore was the fact that when I showed you the connected paper dolls and I talked about the facets of divinity and how that would mean that not just each polarity is connected, but also that positive things, good things, and, negate supposedly things, evil things, are connected as well. And I thought about that, and I realized that that does make sense as well, because just as we as human beings individually, we are not all good or all bad. There are good parts of us and there are not so good parts of us. There are some ugly parts to each of us. There is no such thing as a person who is all good or all bad. It's just not cut and dry that way. And I feel that divinity is the same way. I feel that we and divinity are sort of mirrors of one another. So I think that just as we have positive and negative aspects to ourselves, positive and negative facets to ourselves, so too does divinity have positive and negative aspects or facets to itself. And another thing too is that with the question of evil, there are two kinds of evil. There's what some refer to as primary evil, which is like true spiritual evil. And then there is the kind of evil that comes out of choices that people make. I don't know if you would necessarily call that secondary evil or what you would refer to that as, but there are two completely different things. I feel that primary evil, which I'm using that term to explain spiritual evil, or to describe spiritual evil, I feel that primary evil maybe has a purpose. And I feel that nothing happens for no reason. There are lessons to be found in all things. I don't have all the answers, but I believe that maybe primary evil exists for a reason, because if there was absolutely no purpose to primary evil, it probably wouldn't exist, because it all has to come from somewhere. So there must be a reason for it. And if we go back to what I was saying about ourselves being a mirror with the divine, when we are at our ugliest, so to speak, in terms of, I use the term ugly not to mean appearance, but to mean when we really behave in nasty, evil ways, like there's something there's something that needs to be looked at, because obviously that's not us performing as human beings. It's not us being at our best. There's a lesson in there. Now, that's not to say that that it's okay. It's not, it's not like saying, oh, well, when I'm a jerk, that's fine, because there's a lesson in that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there is something that can be learned from negativity. There's always something to be learned from it, whether you are the recipient of that negativity or whether you are the person who's causing that negativity. There's something going on that should be looked at, And what I mean by that is, like, if I punch someone in the face, just to be a bitch, okay, and excuse my language, maybe I need to examine, why did I punch that person? Especially if they didn't do anything to me. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't defending myself, let's say. Let's say I just went up and hauled off and just whoosh. Well, maybe I need to look at myself and be like, what do I need to fix in me? Because that was uncalled for, And as for that poor person that was punched in the face, maybe they can, I don't know. It's hard to, it's so complex. Maybe they can take away the fact that, maybe in that situation, if they handled it badly, maybe they can, for example, learn from how they handled it. Or maybe, I don't know, it's really complex, because lessons don't come in like little cut and dry, one-size-fits-all cookie cutters. It really depends on the specifics of a situation. But I do believe that in negativity, there are, especially primary negativities, there are lessons to be learned. What those lessons are, it's hard for me to articulate, because each situation is unique. But I find that primary evil probably has more of a purpose than the kind of evil that comes out of the free will of people. People do have free will. We make choices all the time. I believe that when someone does something evil, that's not like, oh, the devil made me do it. No, you made you do it. You made the choice to do that. That's what I believe. Why they made that choice? There's any number of reasons why they made that choice. And when I speak of evil, I mean things that are done, like without provocation, without like any kind of rhyme or reason, sort of, from an outside perspective, like just something that is completely uncalled for. Like attacking someone or doing something awful to someone. That is not something that, it wasn't like, oh, I was defending myself, or it wasn't like, I felt threatened. It was like they just did it because they wanted to. There's any number of reasons why someone would make a choice to do something, or whether it's to be selfish and harm someone through their selfishness, or whether it would be to, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever, hurt someone or something. Those are choices, and they're made out of free will, and I don't feel that that comes out of primary evil. That comes purely out of human fault. But the kind of evil that exists in the world that comes from people, that is, I don't feel that that is part of the facets of positive and negative in the divine being linked together. It's not. It doesn't come out of primary evil. It just doesn't. It comes out of choices. It comes out of decisions people make for whatever reason. Now, I do feel that maybe people can learn from experiences, either on the receiving or on the giving end, of the kind of evil that comes out of choices. But I believe that there is more to be learned in the kind of evil that is considered primary in terms of like spirituality, divinities, entities, whatever, that fall into that spectrum. Because they exist for a purpose. The choices we make, I'm not going to say our choices don't exist for a purpose, but I feel that we're all on our own journeys. We all make mistakes. We all do things for whatever reasons, drives, whatever we happen to have. And we are kind of the captains of our own ship. But while I do think that we can learn from the things we do and the things that are done to us, I don't think that those were put in place for the sole purpose of teaching. I feel that choice was put there for the purpose of learning, teaching, whatever. I don't feel that the exact choices we made are put there for the express purpose of learning or teaching. Growth can come out of things, good or bad. But, yeah. And just one final note on that. I'm not going to go into details, but years ago, something very, very awful happened to me. Something extremely, completely uncalled for, and something that is just sick. Someone did something to me that was just so twisted, horribly twisted. And it took me a long time to be able to process that because it was just that serious. It was just that deep. I'm not going to speak about it in detail because I don't feel this is the forum for that. I don't feel that I should broadcast that all over the internet. But what I will say is I don't know what lesson that person came away with, if they came away with any lesson at all. Because all through it, till the end, and even when they got their just dessert, through the justice system, that person I don't think ever even saw anything wrong with what they did. But what I took away from being on the receiving end of that, I discovered strength that I had no idea that I had. So I'm not saying that things like that should happen to people, through that secondary evil, that's evil that comes out of the choices that people make. But what I will say is that you can learn from even the most ugly and tragic experiences. You can learn and grow from them through your healing process. They are not necessary. They are what they are. But again, that's how I would, I guess, interpret how the positive and negatives are connected. But again, I'm going to say it one more time. The evil that people do is not the same as the facets of divinity that you saw when I illustrated the paper dolls to you. The kind of evil I was referring to is primary evil, where there are spirits that are not just like interpreted as evil. They really kind of do thrive on negative things, certain ones. And I do feel that those entities, spirits, parts of divinity, they exist for a purpose. And now there's a difference, too, between evil and dark. There's darkness. It's not necessarily evil. It's just dark. And then there's, like, evil. Like, true, serious, like, evil. And these are all aspects, of the great whole, in my opinion, that is faceted in many different ways, under many different names, many different aspects, and what have you, The divine is not all good. The divine is not all bad. The divine is not all dark or all light or all whatever. It's so deep, so complex, so multifaceted. So I think that those are my thoughts that pretty much wrap up and well round my spiritual philosophy that I have been meditating on. In terms of polarity, the elements, and the various facets of divinity. If you have any thoughts, comments, questions, anything, feel free, please, put them in the comment box, because I'm very interested in hearing from you and in replying to your thoughts and such. Until our next exchange, see you later.